Welcome back to the Deposit That podcast, everybody. I'm here with someone I'm honored to call my best friend. And as you know, we do intro songs and intro music. You're not going up to play baseball at bat, so I'm going to play the song that I have for you so everyone can sit here and melt over and get the chills. You know the song?
It's a nice song.
Toy Story. Not that kind of toy. This is like Toy Story. You know, I think if you had any song to pick, that's got to be the song that kind of details our relationship since 2006.
I think that was a really nice.
Yeah?
Nice
Did
song.
it touch your heart?
It was warm.
Good. I remember the first day I called you to like really talk deep was like the summer of 2006. I think me and my girlfriend just broke up. She was definitely banging somebody else, right?
I don't know.
Probably, you know, whatever. It's like the unspoken truth.
Hold on,
Which
which
one?
girl?
Which one?
Which
Yeah, exactly. But I'd call you. I was sitting outside, and we talked for like an hour and a half, and we had only known each other for about 4 or 5 months at that point. And we just like kind of talked it real and kept it real since then. But yeah, I mean, you've been one of the most consistent, inspirational, motivational people in my life since the day we met back in 2006. And it's crazy to think that it's been 13 and a half years now that we've known each other. We've had some crazy times which we can't discuss over this podcast. When we do release the XR version of this podcast, we'll be able to share those funny stories. But truly somebody that I'm grateful to have met and grateful to have access to on a daily basis.
Yeah, likewise. It's interesting. I get a ton of calls every day from people that I come across and have met along the way in life, and I seem to be that support person in life. But definitely our friendship has definitely blossomed and stood out as one that stand the test of time. So,
what do you believe makes you that person that people just want to reach out to, vent to, open up to, and trust?
I think it's a combination of a number of things, but the first thing that pops in my head is life experience. And I think everybody has life experiences, but my experiences have been unique, and and I don't shy away from them. I wear my experiences on my shoulders, and I have no problem sharing the things I've been through, because you never know who may be going through them in the future, or who's gone through them in the past. And just having that soundboard of someone who has been through similar circumstances, I think people appreciate, and people genuinely gravitate toward. So I think for me, it's being vulnerable, being open, and using my story and my experiences as a platform, to help others get through their challenges.
I know one thing we always said was like going deep sea diving. We'll not reference in what aspect of life we like doing that. It's not fishing in that sense, deep sea diving. I know your story, but since we're going to go deep sea diving right now, take us back to your childhood and what you've experienced. I know you've experienced a lot more than your average person, especially, up until, you were 18 years old, you went through a lot.
Yeah. No, I've been through a ton, and I think everybody in life has their own story. Everybody has experienced some type of hardships or setbacks. For me, the challenges that I experienced early on, beside the fact that my father wasn't in my life until the later years when I got to college. My mother, single parent, mother up until my early, teenage years. My family was on welfare. My mom was on welfare. I really, when I say I come from nothing, I say that, and a lot of people use that as like, some kind of, cliche term, but I really feel like I came from nothing. As you know, when I was 15 years old, my first brother was murdered. And when I was 16, my second brother was murdered. So, a combination of, seeing my mother struggle early on, growing up around, women. I have an older sister and a younger sister who has a mild case of cerebral palsy. Being around women all my life, and my brother's passing away, I think it made me more of a wholesome person just by being more understanding, being more patient, Not jumping to conclusions, being more rational. I think all of that, really made me who I am today.
Now, I know where you're from, obviously, but tell everybody where you're from, what setting you grew up in, along with, other things that you experienced and saw early on that most people don't see early on.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Baltimore. I grew up in the inner city. Uh, in my life early on, death, murder, drugs, jail, those were the common themes. I go back to, Fordham, and, I speak not only at Fordham, but also in Baltimore. I go back and I speak to inner city kids about, what it took for me to get to where I am today. And I usually share with them, for me growing up in Baltimore, we felt we only had 3 options. And those options were jails, drugs, or the cemetery. And that was my reality, and that's the reality for a number of people who I grew up with, and who still live in the same, community and neighborhood in Baltimore. So I was just blessed and fortunate enough to, see the cracks in the road and avoid and avoid some of the potholes and make it to where I am now. But it's sad that a lot of people still live in that same kind of mindset and environment where it's not a cliche, it's reality.
So would you say all the odds were stacked actually against you?
Some could say that. I think it's all relative. It's all from, whose ever vantage point is looking. I think that we all have odds stacked against us, but it's up to you to take advantage of those opportunities or turn those negatives into positives and make the best of them. So I hate, I never want anyone to, pity me or feel bad for my upbringing or where I come from. So I wouldn't, yes, some people could say I had, odds stacked against me, but I don't look at it that way. I look at it as I had an opportunity. And I learned early on that, I can either go left or right. I can either, take the path that many of the kids in my neighborhood took, or I can create my own path.
Now, how did you learn that without having a father figure in your life? Was there a father figure that told you that, hey, this is right and wrong, or go down this right path? Or was it your mother, or who was that influential voice inside your head that, made you not seek revenge out for people that did you and your family wrong?
I think it was a combination of a few things. I would say one was fear. I didn't want to die. So, so my first brother was murdered over drugs and money. And then my second brother was murdered because he tried to avenge my first brother's death. So he went after...
So you saw that?
I was there. He went after the guys who killed my first brother because, in Baltimore, it's,
That's what it is.
It's sad because those guys shouldn't have been on the street, but no blame to, police officers. I think that at the end of the day, it's up to the community to police itself. And, in my neighborhood, people don't tell, snitches get stitches.
Yeah.
That's like, it's sad, but that's the norm. That's commonplace in Baltimore and specifically in my community.
In a lot of urban communities in general, underprivileged communities.
Yeah, it's the code of the street.
Yep.
It's sad, but so my first brother, was murdered. My second brother avenged my first brother's death. And going back to your original question, what was that? Who was that person, or what was that thing that kind of pushed me down a different path? And I said, one of the first things was fear. I didn't want to die. I could have easily went after these guys and
did what you had to do,
avenge my brother's death, and
both of them
tried to, because the guys who committed the crimes, they're still roaming the streets. But fear. I didn't want to die. So I had to change my mindset. I had to do things differently, move in different ways. I think that was the first thing, was fear. The second thing was money. Money was the motivator for me. I saw with some of my friends from the private high school I went to, the amount of money that they had, the kind of cars they drove, the clothes that they wore, and it was, if I can, I always believed if I can see it, then I can be it. You know, if I can touch it, then I can become it. And I was going to a private school with some of, you know, the wealthiest kids in, you know,
Probably America.
in Maryland, and,
Right.
and not only Maryland, and, you know, in the world, or in the United States. And that was, you know, another, you know, I guess a theme in my life that kind of, you know, pivoted my kind of yeah, changed my direction and where I wanted to be in life. So I think fear was one thing that played a major role. I think money was definitely a motivator and kind of, you know, made me want more out of my life and out of myself. And then just exposure to different people.
Yeah, talk about coming from, you know, I'm going to say the hood in Baltimore,
Yeah, sure.
going to a prestigious, mostly white high school
Yeah.
where there were mostly privileged white kids.
Sure,
How
yeah.
was that? How was that transition? Did you resent it, or did you look at it as, hey, I fit in because I'm a person just like them? What was your experience like?
Yeah, no, it was a culture shock. And
Instantly?
oh yeah, so it was a predominantly white school. In my graduating class, I was one of two black.
Wait, you were rapping and they were singing country music, or like what was it?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
Kumbaya versus
Yeah,
like
it was different. You know, it was something that I've never experienced before. Mostly because in the inner city there were no white people.
none, literally none.
None.
No Eminem wannabes.
No, there was no white people. I think in my middle school, you know, I think we probably had 2 white kids, and I
And they were Russian.
I didn't know,
They
I
weren't
didn't know
even
these guys.
American.
You know, and I was fortunate enough to get a basketball scholarship to go to this private high school. And, you know, at the school, it was a culture shock. It was predominantly white. I stood out like a sore thumb, you know, and there were some African Americans there, but the African Americans that were
Privileged.
there, they all grew up in that same environment. So I felt the first real black person, like from the inner city, that was exposed to this different culture.
How did the kids in the school accept you? Did they take you on right away instantly, or was it kind of like stay away from him? He's bad news because he's not from where we're from.
Yeah, no, I think it was a mixture, you know, depending on, you know, who the person was. And funny enough, one of my good friends, his name is Craig Andrzejewski, his mother worked in admissions. So she was one of the people that, you know, saw me come in and had to, you know, get me situated in my classes.
And you met him
my
there
study.
at school.
And he was a star lacrosse player. He played lacrosse at UPenn. He's an All-American, you know, lacrosse player. And not only was he good in college, but he was one of the best in high school. So he was a stud. And his mother made him be my friend. And I don't know if he wanted to be my friend or not, but we, you know, he accepted me in. And because he was so popular, people looked up to him.
If he's doing it, he's cool. Then you must be all right.
Right. So then some people begin to accept me in, and then, you know, I was a decent athlete. You know, I played football, basketball, and lacrosse, and I stood out. I did really well. You know, for the teams I played for, I was, you know, one of the first freshmen to ever play on a varsity team.
For basketball and football?
For basketball. Football, I actually didn't play football. I want to say it was my junior year I played football. I was just naturally good at it, but I didn't play football until my junior year. Coincidentally, I ended up getting a scholarship to play football in college, but basketball was my sport. But because I was a good athlete, people would accept me.
They gave you a chance.
They gave me a
instant
chance. They gave me a chance. I think sports is it is a platform that, you know, it transcends cultures, generations, you know, religion, you know, ethnicity. I think sports, anyway, for me, it was the thing that opened up doors.
Is it more of a community factor, or is it more they wanted to be around the best athletes so they're cool, you know?
Yeah, I think it was that. I think they wanted to be associated with
They want to be something they're not.
the best athletes, you know. You know, but to you know, to play devil's advocate, basketball was not the famed
Right.
sport
Yeah.
there. Lacrosse
Right.
was the sport.
And then football,
Well, lacrosse,
baseball.
baseball was big as well, but lacrosse was a sport. I think we were national champions in 2000.
Yeah, back then most black people didn't play lacrosse, right? In
Yeah.
high school, right?
Yeah, well, I knew nothing about lacrosse. I didn't know it was a sport until I got to this private
You're one of
high
those
school.
freak athletes, so you just go tell you to do it, and you do it. And
Yeah.
you're good at it.
Yeah. I remember one of the first games I played in. It was against Gilman, which is another private high school in Baltimore, and the coach said to me for a whole week. He said to me, "All right, we're gonna practice getting you the ball and you running down the field." So for a week, he would tell me to go near the goalie. The goalie would put the ball in my stick, and I would take off running down the sideline because I was the fastest person out there
By a long shot,
on the
I'm sure,
field.
yeah.
So I would take off running down the sideline, and we would do that. We did that. We practiced that for a week. Every day we practiced it, 10, 15 times. And Friday came, and it was the game. It was a JV game against Gilman, and the coach said, "All right, Jason, it's time for you to go in. Let's do the play we practiced." And I went to the goalie. He put the ball in my stick, and I took off running. And just like in practice, nobody could catch me. I flew past the offense. I flew past the defensive players. I flew past everybody. It was just like we
So that
grew
was just
up.
you and the goalie.
Just me and the goalie. And the goalie had no idea what to do because usually he has, people
Defenders.
that are helping
Yeah.
him. And I get in front of the goal, and then I think, oh my gosh, the entire week we were practicing me running down the field.
Don't know how to shoot.
We never
Wrong
prac-
type of shooting.
We never practiced shooting the ball. So I get in front of the goalie, and I'm like, what am I going to do? Uh-oh. And I just shuffled the ball out of my stick, and it bounced in front of
tumbled out?
me. Yeah. And then I got checked by one of the defenders. They finally caught up with me, and that was the highlight of my lacrosse career.
You didn't score.
Didn't score. Besides that, I'll tell one more story. And this is, it may sound not ignorant. It may sound not racist, but we had something called the Soul Patrol. So one of the coaches for the lacrosse team, the varsity lacrosse team, he thought it would be cool. And this is my favorite teacher. I'm still great. I'm close to him, and he's one of my, I guess I would call him a mentor. He was a head lacrosse coach, and he wanted to have 3 black players on the field at one time because that's never been done.
That's pretty cool, actually. Yeah, right.
Yeah, so in high school, and this is a varsity team, and we won a championship that year. I didn't do anything to win, but for the varsity championship game, he had me, a guy named Christian Turner, and a guy named Quentin Gill on the field at the same time playing in defense, and he called us the Soul Patrol.
Why, because you're taking people's souls?
No, because the Soul Brothers. So we those are the 2 stories that I remember from playing lacrosse at this prestigious private high school.
Now, talk about, so we obviously met at Fordham,
Yep.
right? We became friends almost instantly, day one.
Yeah.
And then I wound up getting hurt in early training camp. You wound up getting hurt at the end of training camp
Yep.
in August, and we spent really the next 3 to 4 months every single day together watching The Wire. Walk me through the day we first met, all the way through up until the day we had to both do conditioning in the pool to rehab our injuries,
Yes.
which I know you remember because we were both nauseous and throwing up.
Yeah. So funny enough, as you know, I came in with new coaches. So I came in mid-semester with a set of all new coaches to Fordham's football team. So when I came in, I felt that everyone on the football team hated me.
Because you were their first recruit.
Because I was the first recruit that
Right.
they brought
Yeah.
in. And, it wasn't that I was just thinking that. People did not like me because they thought I was an outsider. I came in mid-semester, so I knew no one. I came in by myself. I came in under these coaches, so I was like the coach's pet. So I had no one to lean on or talk to or to confide in. I wanted to be a part of the team. But some of the wide receivers felt that I was stealing their position, and I was going to automatically get the spot because I'm coming in with these new coaches, not because I was better at the position.
Which both were true.
But funny enough, out of all the people that were wide receivers, and I think all the people that I originally was introduced to or met, you were the first person that said to me, and I think this is what you said, not verbatim, but I don't care, who you are, where you come from. I'm going to compete for this position, and I'm going to beat you out for this position, and then we could be friends off the field.
All that was true, except I definitely didn't beat you out for that position.
But, I respected and appreciated that so much because it's, as you know, if you can just think about it as an adult now, looking back, being new to a school, to a team, to a
job, corporation,
everything, it's just like it's important to have someone that you can rely on or talk to or, just, be connected to versus being by yourself. It's important. And now bullying has become a bigger topic, but I felt like, I was being bullied back then by people just not associating with me based off of the time I came to the school or who I came into the school with, meaning the coaches. So you were the first person that just accepted me for who I was, not because, of my, of athletics. It was like, I don't care what you do, who you are, I'm going to beat you for the position and we can still be friends. And I'm like, that's all I asked for. That's great by me.
So now we go into training camp. I go down with an injury.
Yeah.
And then a week or two later, you go down with an injury where you actually needed surgery.
Yeah. So I had something called compartment syndrome where they had to take 2/3 of the muscle out of my leg. And this is kind of an interesting story because I feel like coming from Baltimore, it kind of relates back to my upbringing. I'm at my best when people tell me what I can't do. I work the hardest when people tell me that I can't achieve certain things, and I feel like I'm as qualified as any other person on this planet to do whatever roles in front of me, no matter whether it's on the football field or in the classroom or, in the job or in your career. I feel like anyone, I don't care who you are, you bleed just like me. And I know that I may not be the smartest person, but I will outwork anybody that is, on the other side of the line. But I say that because when I had my surgery, it was an emergency rush surgery. The doctor told me I would never be able to play football again. Besides that, I may not be able to walk correctly again. Like I said, they had to take 2/3 of the muscle out of my leg, and I had to regrow my muscle.
They say black people have extra muscles in their legs. Is that true?
That was probably the muscle.
You had 2 extra ones.
Yeah. So not only did I come back and play, walk correctly again, but I ended up being the captain of the football team. I ended up, being an All-American football player. I ended up breaking, a number of records at Fordham. And I say that a lot of that had to do with this doctor telling me what I couldn't do.
Yeah, it's over.
There's no one in this world that can tell me what I can't do. And when you do tell me that, I think.
Watch out.
Yeah, I think Catherine, my wife, is smart because she learned.
I think she's smart.
Yeah,
she's only an attorney.
Yeah,
Seton Hall law grad.
She learned, how to push me, and you push me by,
telling you can't do something.
Telling me I can't do something. It's as simple as that. Yeah. So
now again, so we were both injured at the same time.
Yep.
I feel like you and I, we really developed, a lifelong bond over that next 3 months where you basically moved in with me because you still had to stay on campus because technically you were still a freshman.
Yeah.
And we, I believe, stayed in the house for about 3 months straight and watched The Wire.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously everything happens for a reason, but that was kind of like our not only get to know each other phase, but develop, really the foundation to what we've been able to build on. Do you think that, obviously we would have still been friends, do you think if we didn't have that time together and both experience hardship together and be there for one another when no one else is really experiencing that, do you think we would have been as close as we were today? Organically?
I think going through something with someone strengthens the relationship. I think going through something makes you a stronger person, but going through something with someone else, it makes you both stronger and it makes you stronger together. Catherine just had she had to pull an all-nighter First time she ever.
We've done some all-nighters.
Oh yeah, so funny story. She says to me, "This is the first time I've ever had to buy a toothbrush and brush my teeth in the office." And I'm like, "Well, I had to do that before, but I think it was
Wasn't in
because-
the office.
I said, I think it was because I stayed out and partied all night. Versus
She didn't laugh.
working.
She definitely didn't laugh
No,
at that.
no. So she worked all night. You know, the partner of the law firm told her that they needed to stay and close this deal, and she called me and was like, you know, I don't know what to do. You know, I'm so frustrated. I don't want to stay here all night. And I said, listen, this is an opportunity for you
Pull an all-nighter.
to build a relationship, not only with the associates that work with you, but also with the partner. You're going to be in an office all night with the partner, going through the trenches,
Yep,
and
together.
this is going to make you strong, but this is going to make you guys, you know, your relationship stronger.
In it to win it.
And then like 10 years from now, you're going to be talking about,
Remember that
hey,
night?
you remember that night when we pulled an all-nighter? So to go back to your question, I think that, yes, I think we would have, you know, been friends. But by going through something together, somehow I think that builds a stronger bond or stronger connection. So
Now, a year or two, we're going to touch on a different topic. Take a turn real quick before we get into like the real nitty gritty of, you know, what people want to hear from you. We were, funny enough, I think we picked up alcohol one night and we were driving back to the football house. We were in my souped up Envoy, black tinted windows, system was pumping, probably had like a bartender or Lil Wayne,
yeah.
you know, rocking, the car was shaking.
Okay.
And we're at a red light, stopped, no one's around us, and then before we know it, there's like 5 or 6 cop cars, NYPD vans, sirens on, lights flashing. We're just sitting there like literally rapping Lil Wayne, like whatever it was. And then 2 seconds later, we're at like assault rifle gunpoint from like 10 different cops.
Yeah.
Walk me through what the heck happened and what transpired.
Yeah, that's you know, that's a topic of its own.
Mind you, black tinted windows where you can't see in any part of the car.
I think that is, you know, a bigger issue that we have in the world today, and you know, that's something that it seems like it shouldn't be happening, but it's still happening, you know, to this day. So I'll back up and tell a story. So I think we were going to go on campus. We lived a block away from campus, or 2 blocks away from campus, and we got in your car, and I think it was cold out that
Yeah, it
night
was
because we
winter.
had sweat clothes on.
Yep.
And so we drove your car. We were driving your car to get to campus. You were driving. I was in the passenger
Pick
seat.
up a girlfriend.
Or maybe pick up a girl. And we made a right onto Fordham Road,
Yep.
going toward the Bronx Zoo. And we got about halfway up this kind of ramp near a bridge, and there was a cop van, that went through the underpath while we were going above it, and they threw their car in reverse, and then they came up to where we were, and threw their lights on behind us. And I think we were, you know, at a red light already. And about maybe 5 or 6 police officers got out of this van and walked up to the back of the car, opened your trunk,
Tried opening it, I think.
tried
Yeah.
opening the trunk.
I definitely locked it.
And then one of the police officers came around to your window. And if I remember this correctly, he said...
At gunpoint. They were all at gunpoint.
Yeah, they had the guns drawn. He said, "Are you okay?"
Yeah. After I rolled the window down.
Yeah, and then he came to my side. Another one came to my side of the window and asked me for my license.
For your ID, yeah.
I'm not driving.
Yeah.
What do you want my license for? And I remember, and this is just, you know, a testament of, you know, the person that you are, and, you know, why, you know, I think we've been friends so long, because I think with you, it's black and white. You know, it's right or wrong. You know, it's like, is this right or is this wrong? And it's...
My judgment's been clouded a few times.
Yeah,
Put
no.
a drink or 7 in.
No, but you know what? You're a principled kind of person, you know, and you have strong morals. And that night it was completely wrong. But I remember you saying, that night the police were wrong. I remember you saying, "Hey, let's
Say it, curse. You go ahead.
I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was like, let's not turn this into another Crash."
I said, hey, fuckface.
let's not turn this into another Crash movie or incident, because Crash was the movie where I believe like a police officer ended up
The guy's wife or
shooting
something like that,
somebody,
right?
yeah, it was something like that. That was inappropriate from
Yep.
their perspective. Granted, I understand that police officers have a tough job and they go through a lot of stuff on a daily basis, but that was bad.
If you remember the principle of it, so they pulled up, they came over, like, sir, are you all right? I go, what the fuck do you mean if I'm all right? I go, did I tell you that I wasn't all right?
Yeah.
And then they came over to you, asked you for your ID, and I'm like, and meanwhile you had a Fordham shirt on, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, why the fuck are you coming at us? What the fuck's going on? And they were like, oh, well, your passenger looked like somebody
Right.
who had previously robbed a woman's purse by the Metro North. I go, really? That's interesting. I go, again, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. My windows are illegally tinted, 5% tint.
Yeah.
And he's pretty black.
Yeah.
So even if you could see in, you couldn't see the face.
Yeah.
So what the fuck are you doing? And again, listen, the cops were very standoffish in the sense that they knew that they were wrong. They knew we were stupid. They could have probably arrested both of us just because I was being a prick to them. But
Yeah.
they were 100% wrong. But truthfully, when you could have handled it differently, you
Yeah.
didn't. You did the right thing. You shut your mouth.
Yeah.
Did you learn that, or is that just how you are overall?
No, it's first of all, it was embarrassing, because I think we were still building on our
Yeah,
relationship.
2007.
And I didn't want you to have to go through what a lot of black people go through on a daily basis.
I
in the
did
inner
twice,
city,
actually.
right? I didn't want you to have to go through it. And then on top of that, if you would have felt like, wow, if this happens every time or often when I'm out with a black person, or if I'm out with Jason,
Can't hang out with them.
I can't hang out with him, So I was, nervous from that standpoint. But then to further the story, they pulled me out of the car.
I jumped out.
They had me put my hands up on your car and they searched me. And I can remember it, like it was yesterday. There was one black police officer out of that 6. And I looked over at him while I was being searched, and he looked at me, and the look in his face said, "I'm sorry that this is happening to you." And he
Without even saying it.
without saying anything, but he had no authority, he had no power, but he knew that what these other cops were doing was wrong.
Completely wrong.
So going back to how did I make it out of Baltimore, I think fear. I was afraid that one of these police officers could make a mistake, and shoot me, or think
Plant
that I'm
something on you,
someone
whatever.
plant something on me, think that I'm someone that I'm not, and somehow arrest
Okay,
me.
locked up for 4 days.
So so fear was one of the things that stood out to me. And my grandfather always says to me, I don't know why he says this, but he says to me, "Remember, Jason, you're not white." Because I went to a predominantly white high school. I went to a predominantly white college. I associate and I have a lot of friends who are white. My best friend's a white guy. So my grandfather always says, "Remember, you're not white. You still, have to act accordingly when in certain situations." So I think fear, and I shouldn't be afraid. I shouldn't have to feel this way. But fear was one of those motivators at that time where it was just like, I'm afraid that I may die. So let me just stand here, let my rights be violated, and it'll be over as soon as possible.
When you think of fear, I've never heard anybody say fear has actually been the catalyst to my success, right?
Yeah.
First time I'm ever hearing that still to this day. Mostly people are held back by fear. But in this sense, it sounds like in 2 instances now, fear has been really your catapult, right?
Yeah.
To get you to the next progression.
Yeah, and it's I've never said that to anybody because I'm a man, I'm like a strong
Machismo,
black man,
right?
That's what Catherine said. So I'm you don't want to tell people that you're afraid, and I've never told anybody that was.
You just told
what-
hopefully 2 million listeners.
Yeah, but that's honest. You know, it's true. Fear was. I said this earlier. When my back's against the wall, that's when I'm at my best. When my back's against the wall, it's fight or flight, and fear is the thing that saves me. It's like, all right, I'm going to die in this. I can possibly die in this scenario. What can I do to get me out of this? What can I do to move forward? What can I do to be safe, or to be in a better place? And I guess fear has been a motivator, and fear has been one of the things that has saved my life in a lot of instances. And that's sad to say, but I wish it was something else that was more cool. But I think fear, to be at the core honest, fear is a thing that has saved me.
For those of you that don't know, Jason ran a 4.340.
4.39.
Still 4.3. No one counts after that. Jumped 44 inches.
44.5-inch vertical.
But now we're counting the half. 0.5. Okay. And turned down the NFL and the opportunity to be drafted to the NFL in order to pursue the ugly game of Wall Street.
Sure. Yeah, ugly to some, but
walk us through that.
Yeah, so I was a decent athlete, thanks to the doctor who
told you no.
I don't want to say it was Dr. Zambetti.
It might have been
Dr. Z.
It's probably Vinny, but he's known for misdiagnosing.
No, Vinny's a good guy, good golfer.
Ever had his shirt for a long time? I used to wear his shirt.
I love my athletic trainer. I have a shirt that says that.
Yeah.
So I think so I was a decent athlete. Like I said, I was a All-American. I broke a lot of records.
By decent, he means freak athlete.
I broke a good amount of records at Fordham, and had the opportunity to pursue the NFL. So my senior year, our quarterback John Skelton got drafted to the Arizona Cardinals, and I remember I got interviewed. I don't know if it was like the New York Times or if it was, the Rambler, the Ram Times, Fordham newspaper. It was a newspaper.
Yeah.
And they interviewed me and they said, Jason, this is my senior year after I was an All-American, the previous year. This is my fifth year. They said, Jason, now that you are, about to graduate and your quarterback, that you played with for 4 years is in the NFL, are you thinking about playing in the NFL? And I remember saying this. My mom has this article hung up in like the living room in our place in her house, and in the interview I said Wall Street is my NFL. And I said that I thought I was clever. I thought somebody will probably read this down the road, give me a job. That didn't happen. But the reason that I chose Wall Street is because ever since I grew up in Baltimore, since I was a kid in Baltimore, the reason I made it out is because I did the opposite of what everybody else was doing. So the kids in Baltimore were selling drugs. At some point in my life, I, did some things.
Sold drugs before?
Did some things I shouldn't have did, yeah. But the kids in my neighborhood sold drugs. And because they sold drugs, they sold drugs their entire life. I've never seen a drug dealer become successful,
Yeah, they're always
I've seen a drug dealer. Yeah, they're always drug dealers. So I was like, I don't want to do that. If they didn't, if they continue to be drug dealers and, they either stayed drug dealers or they ended up in jail or they ended up, in prison or, so I was like, I don't want to go that route. So I did the opposite of what all my friends were doing. And then the last thing was, if it wasn't drugs, the other thing that people, minorities, black kids in inner city, think they can do or hope to strive to do is play in the NFL or the NBA. And the chances of making it in the NFL or the NBA are slim to none. But everybody believes that they're going to make it, and I don't say that to knock anybody's dreams. If you think you can make it, go after it. Give it 100%, give it your all. But the chances of you making it are very slim. So I weigh odds. I say, the chances of me making it in the NFL, now that I'm in college, the chances of me making it in the NFL have gotten a lot better. But the chances of me surviving in the NFL, the average NFL career is 2.5 years. The chances of me surviving in the NFL are very slim. So why not own an NFL team versus playing for an NFL team? Why not, manage money for an NFL player versus spending money as an NFL player? So I think I had the foresight to see that the odds of me making it on Wall Street were a lot greater than one making it in the NFL and staying in the NFL for a long career. The people that I know a ton of people who, a handful of people who coach NFL teams, a ton of people who play in the NFL now, but, I think long term I made the best decision because, I have a career. I don't have to worry about injuries. I don't have to worry about, getting hurt playing, football, or, if I'll get cut this year, or competing against a 22-year-old or a 23-year-old who's just coming out of college. I have a career where I am, I don't want to say comfortable, but I have created a path or created an opportunity for myself to be successful for the rest of my life. Versus, in the NFL, it's, in my mind, it stands for not for long. Yeah.
So after you got out of school and you turned down the NFL, told them to go beat it.
Yeah.
What did you do?
Yeah. So besides fear, besides money, I think the other attribute that I have is my relationships. I'm really good at building genuine relationships, not fake or because I want to get something out of it in return. But I feel like I do a really good job at building relationships and then cultivating those relationships. Because I was a good athlete and I was a captain of the team at Fordham, there were a lot of people who were, wanted a piece of me. They wanted to, me to be in their circles. They wanted to take me out to dinners, or they wanted to be in my likeness or my presence. So with, going to different galas or going to different, events with alumni, I began to build relationships with those guys. And I think that helped me out, especially now. The first job I got out of college was through a football player's father. He was like second in command in MetLife. His name was Mike Farrell. And Sean Farrell played football, with us. And his father every year would bring 1 or 2 kids from Fordham and give them an opportunity to work at MetLife. So I worked on a variable annuity desk there for about 2 years, and really, it wasn't Wall Street like I thought it would be. It was insurance, but it was a good segue and a good introduction to finance and to the business world,
The real world.
the real world. And oddly enough, like I said, my relationships is my biggest attribute. Every job that I've gotten since I've graduated college has been through a Fordham alum.
Wow, it's powerful.
I've had 4 different jobs. I worked at MetLife for 2 years. I worked at a firm called HRC for about 2 years. I worked at Lazard Asset Management for about 4 years, and now Goldman Sachs. And every job that I've gotten has been through a Fordham alum.
Now, I know in your corporate professional world, you're very patient,
Sure.
right? In your personal competitive nature of who you are, I know you always say all the time, like you looked up to Michael Jordan growing up, right? Like that was kind of like the guy you looked up to from an athletic standpoint,
Sure.
mentality standpoint. How do you balance being ultra patient and waiting for your time versus going out there by nature and just taking what you want and competing?
From a professional
Both.
standpoint? Yeah, so I think being busy. So I would say for athletes, you should definitely, if you want to play in the NFL, and I just changed this because I would always say you should never put all your eggs in one basket. That's what I used to say. Now I say, if you want something,
Because you're old now.
yeah. Now I'm a little wiser, but I would say you put all your eggs in that one basket. It's okay to fail. Give it 100%. Because if you're not giving it 100%,
Someone else's.
someone else is. And if you're giving it 99%, that 1% that you're not giving, it could push you over the
Deciding
edge.
factor.
So I say, you give it 100%, right? And that's the same thing in the business world. I try to stay as busy as possible. So if one in my industry, the sales process, it usually takes about a year to bring in one account. Typically takes about a year. So it's a long process of, whining and dining and
Ball games,
going to baseball games and basketball games and, building a genuine relationship. It takes a long time for someone to trust you with their money. But while you're working with that person, I say you continue to work on your craft with other people. So I'm continuously, going out trying to find business from as many people as possible, which keeps me busy. It keeps me, on a treadmill running 100%. But I'm just doing it in a different way. I'm doing it I'm spending 100% on a lot of people versus 100% on one person where I have to wait. So by keeping busy, I'm constantly on the move, and it's not about waiting.
What was it like the day you realized that you had a legitimate career opportunity at Goldman Sachs? Because I feel like, again, knowing where you came from to achieving that level of success, right?
Yeah.
And you definitely put all the work in between. There was no rock left unturned. What was the feeling inside of you? Like, I made it, or I have so much more to accomplish?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. So every time I accomplished something, I feel like there's something more out there.
So you check off that box.
I wouldn't even say a check off the box. I would just say Goldman Sachs is the
Can't go higher.
You can't go higher than that, right? But once you get there, it's like, if I got here, then I got more. I could do more, especially at my age. I'm only 33. I feel like there is something out there. I don't know what that is. Maybe vice president of the United States.
President.
Yeah,
president.
I don't want to be president.
You can be president. I'll be vice president.
Too much responsibility. But I feel like, so it was, yes, I made it. I made it here. This is the cream of the crop. This is where everyone wants to be. This is 200 West Street. This is, Wall Street's finest.
Premier firm.
Yeah, this is it. But once I got here, it was like, if I can do this, then that means I have a lot more to offer. So I never get complacent with where I am. I always feel like there's something better out there, and I need to find it. So the day I got my job at Goldman, I don't know if I should say this, but the day I got my job at Goldman, it's like, all right, I made it here. What else is out there? There has to be something bigger than this. Because if they let me in here, then, I feel like I'm better than, I feel like I didn't deserve to be here. But once I got here, it's
you
like,
fit right in. Or better than that.
I'm better than this, So it's, I continue to push. It's never, I don't get complacent. I feel like once you get complacent and once you feel like you've made it, that's when you lose. I think it's twofold. One, once you get complacent and feel like you made it, that's when you fail. And once you get greedy and you want more and you start to bend corners in order to achieve greatness, that's when you fail. I like to play around in that middle
buffer.
Yeah. I like to stay in the middle where, I like to push. I'm not
You're content but not satisfied. Or not satisfied but content.
Yeah, exactly. I'm happy with where I am, but I feel like if I'm not pushing for something greater, then I'm not growing. And that's the only way you can grow, by, continuing to strive for, more.
What's your advice to kids that grew up like the way you grew up, single mom, single parent household, bad influences, negative influences, toxic, dangerous influences all around them? I believe that every kid is born great, and life circumstances and experience, and specifically environments, cause them to either look to take the easy way out or become accustomed to what they know and are exposed to. What's your advice for that kid that, two brothers are in jail, for example, mother may be doing illegal work, whether it's selling drugs or, unfortunately prostitution, something like that, where there's just not a good home life. What's your advice to that kid to make his way out and follow in your footsteps and not follow down one of those three paths to the cemetery, to drug dealing or murdering?
I would say you should never let someone else's success dictate your future.
Regardless of the industry? Or
regardless. So coming up, and I didn't say this, my uncle I thought was the richest man in the world. And I tell this story when I go back to Baltimore, because my uncle had wads of cash. He always dressed like the young guys. He had 2 Lexuses. He had one of the first cars where you press a button and it parks itself. I thought my uncle was the richest man in the world. So I modeled myself to be just like him. And now looking back at that, if I would have let his success,
Cap you out.
dictate my future, then I would be a drug dealer in Baltimore. So I would encourage people to never let someone else's success dictate their future. There's always bigger, there's always better, there's always something greater out there, and you should be curious. You should seek out those opportunities, and you should never be afraid to fail. If in my mind, failure is not the end, failure is a stepping stone to success. Failure is just one way of not doing things, or one way that things don't work. There's a million opportunities out there, and 999 percent of them may not work, but there is one way that will work. You got to continue to strive for greatness. You got to continue to knock on doors. You got to continue to try to be the best you can be, and eventually there will be an opportunity. There will be a crack. There will be something that sparks a flame in you. But I will say that you have to be prepared. You have to be prepared for it, because when that opportunity comes, and it rarely does come, but when it comes, if you're not ready for it, then you'll never be successful. You just wasted, a ton of time. So I say preparation is important, being prepared, being ready for that opportunity, and just knocking on doors, because when that opportunity presents itself, you got to be ready to capitalize on it.
In the show The Wire, they say keep them in the hole, down in the hole, right? Yeah. Basically, keep you into what change is uncomfortable for people. Yeah. What do you do what's your advice to that really smart kid or that star athlete that he's running full speed to get out of that life, and he keeps trying to be tugged back in to keep him down in the hole? What's your advice for them to either disconnect or slowly remove themselves from those relationships that people aren't going anywhere, that want to, be those anchors? What's the easiest way of doing it while still maintaining some type of, respectful consideration for the other person? Yeah.
So I'm from Baltimore, and Baltimore, Maryland, is the home of the Crab. That's our like, I can't even think of what it's called.
The mascot.
That's our mascot. Okay. But it's another word you call it, but as our mascot, the Crab, the Maryland Blue Crab. And when we talk about Maryland, we refer to it as, as the people in Baltimore, as crabs in a bucket. Because every time one of the crabs gets to the top of the bucket and finally is about to get out, another crab pulls them back down. So that's kind of the analogy. Yeah. Keep them in a hole, down in the hole.
That's where it came from?
Well, I don't know if that's where it came from.
Sounds good.
Yeah, like it. So I think it came from a song, but that's the analogy, in a different perspective. And that's how a lot of people feel. I was the first person in my family to go to college, in my immediate family to go to college. First male in my family to get a master's degree. First person in my neighborhood to get out of Baltimore. I think that for that kid who is, trying to get out, trying to make it in life, don't know which way to turn or how to be successful, I would say, taking a leap of faith, getting exposure. The thing that changed my direction, one of the things that changed my direction was my senior project in high school. For my senior project, they gave us a week off from school in May, and they told us we could do something that we've never done before. So a lot of my friends would play instruments, and then for that week, when you came back from that week off, you had to, share with the entire school what you did for that week. A lot of my friends played instruments. Some of my friends had, professional athletes like Cal Ripken come in and speak on their behalf. Some of my friends went on vacation with their family to Hawaii or to Europe or, somewhere outside of the U.S., and they came back and spoke about their experiences. And my teacher, the same teacher that created the Soul Patrol, he came to me and he said, he was the lacrosse coach. He said, what are you going to do for your senior project? And I said, I have no idea. I don't have, money to buy an instrument. I don't have, I don't know any celebrities that can speak on my behalf. And I've never been outside of Baltimore, let alone the country. So my teacher said, well, my son, he works in New York. He makes a lot of money. I don't know what he does, but maybe you can shadow him.
He's a drug dealer.
Yeah, I don't know. So I came. He was a dealer, but he's a broker.
Broker dealer.
Yeah, exactly. So he came to New York. I came to New York for that week. I shadowed his son, who was a managing director at Merrill Lynch. He worked in sales and trading, so he traded with different institutions. But one of his counterparts on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange, he allowed me to shadow him for 2 out of the 5 days I was here. And these guys were just playing with money. And that was one of the determining factors to say, I want to be in New York. I want to work on Wall Street, because these guys are playing with money like it's nothing. One of the guys, when I was on the floor of the exchange, he said, Jason, tell me 2 stocks that you think are good to invest in. And at the time, I didn't even know what a stock was. So he said, tell me 2 companies. And, I was like, because I played basketball, I said Nike. And he nodded his head. And I said TiVo. Back then, TiVo, you could record, rewind television shows. He turned his back to me and typed away on his computer. And I said, well, what did you just do? And he said, I put $100,000 into both of those stocks. And I could not believe it. At the time, I've never...
Your whole body probably tensed up.
Yeah, I never heard the word $100,000 before. That sound like...
It's like a true white person. Yeah, $100,000.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
100? I'm
$100K.
I'm a black kid from Baltimore. I don't make that decision based off me. That's a lot of money. And he just, looked at me and nonchalantly told me to relax. He was like, Jason, it's just money. And at that very moment, I knew I want to work on Wall Street. They're just playing with money. And if I can see this guy, then I can be him. If I can touch him, then I can become him. If I can talk to him and ask him, how did he get to, being a broker or a stockbroker at the floor of the New York Stock Exchange, then maybe I could become him as well. And now, I'm doing business with some of those same guys that I did my internship with as a freshman as a senior in high school. So to answer your question, it's a long way of, coming back around to it. But for that kid who is trying to be successful, who wants, to get out, who wants the opportunity to work on Wall Street or work at Goldman Sachs or, to go to a college, I say, get out of Baltimore, get exposed, even if it's
or wherever you're from.
Wherever you're from. Go to, if you're in New York City.
Are you telling kids to run away?
Go to the Statue of Liberty.
Run away?
Not run away, but go explore.
Come home late.
Go explore different things that are out there. You never know who you'll meet along the way. You never know what will open your eyes or, what you'll get exposure to by traveling and experiencing different cultures and different people. Step out of your box, try to experience different cultures, try to find something that's different that you're not used to. Get out of your comfort zone, because that's when the real magic happens.
You've been always somebody that had an open mind to everything. There are some times where I've said things, you're like, no, absolutely not. And I know that with a little bit of leaning on you, a little bit of pressure, we'll go into, okay, maybe we'll try it, right? You told me a story one time where you walked into a bar in the city early. You were meeting some friends there, right? And I think they were your business school friends,
sure.
right? I think you either had a Trump hat on or Make America Great hat on. Now, again, we don't talk about politics on here at all. Again, I say full disclosure. I don't care who our president is, black, white, purple. I don't care what they've done in the past, good or bad, including Bill Clinton and who was that? Who did Bill Clinton? Monica Lewinsky. God bless both of their souls. You got to do what you got to do sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Walk me through your experience with white people, right?
Yeah.
When you had the hat on at the bar and how they hated on you.
Yeah. So let me back up. So not to get political, but there are a lot of things that I disagree with. So here's the thing. I disagree with our system. I disagree with the way the system's set up. There is no one in this world that can honestly say that they believe 100% what Hillary Clinton believes or 100% what Donald Trump believes.
Right.
And I hate the fact that our system pits us against each other.
Pick one or the other.
You either have to be far right or far left.
Hate one, love one.
There is no in between. That's why I think our system is flawed, and it needs to be a multi-party system where, people aren't white. The systems. The world
People
is
are
not
people.
white and black.
People are people.
People have different opinions. So I say that to say there are some things that President Trump does and believes that I agree with. I like. There are some things that he does not, or that he does that I disagree.
That's
with.
every person that I know, though, right? And you know.
Yeah. So what I like to do is break down barriers
And controversy.
Yeah.
You like a good debate.
I love to debate.
And Monopoly.
Love to debate. Because and this is how you stay informed. I have to be up to date with what's going on in the political realm, in the financial world, in the social world. But I will say that I am fiscally conservative and I am socially liberal. So when it comes to some of the things that Trump believes in from a social standpoint, I tend to disagree. When it comes to some of the things from a fiscal standpoint, I feel like I strongly agree.
Right.
So fast forward to
The
bar scene. So I went to Fordham. I went to business school. I got my MBA at Fordham. I graduated 2017, and I think Fordham's a liberal school. Yeah, it's definitely a liberal school. It's a Jesuit school, but they definitely lean left. And I'm all about having a dialogue and a conversation. I love people. I love meeting people from different cultures, from different backgrounds, from different
perspectives.
I love that because I'm constantly growing. I'm constantly. When I say you can't be content, and that's even with who you are. Like, no one knows everything, and no one has an answer for every question, except for Goldman Sachs. But I feel that I'm constantly growing and evolving to become the person who I ultimately will be in the future. So if you disagree with something that I believe in or something that I say, then prove me otherwise. If you can make a compelling argument to show me why I'm wrong, then maybe I could be swayed. Hey, that's fine. Like I'm constantly evolving. I think we are constantly evolving as society. So I wore a "Make America Great Again" hat.
Was it red or white?
It was a red. It was the red. It was the hat. Not only did I wear it in New York,
You took it from Kanye?
I wore it in Newark, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Coming from my my apartment in Newark, and I didn't understand how offensive it was. I thought it would spark conversation more than anything else. And boy, was I wrong.
Oh yeah. Was it the first time?
So I think my wife threw the hat away. But so I went to class that day, wore the hat in class, and half of the class is like, "Yeah, Jay, yeah," and the other half is like, "What is going on?" And I wore it. I didn't care. I wore it. I sat in front of class or whatever. And one of my friends pulled me aside after class and said, "Hey, I just want to make sure you're not serious about Donald Trump." And I'm sitting there thinking in my head, I'm like, you haven't asked
Come at me.
You haven't asked me one question about Donald Trump. So what do you mean? Am I serious? Just wearing this hat, you don't know what my thoughts are.
Yeah, slowly just says "Make America Great Again."
Yeah, you don't know what my thoughts are on him or his policies or anything that has to do with politics. So I just like, "Oh yeah, no, yeah, I'm wearing a hat," and he's like, "Oh okay, I just wanted to make sure."
Is it a white guy?
No, it was a black guy.
Okay.
And he said, because I thought, I just wanted to make sure, because that's very offensive to wear the hat. He was my classmate. I have to be in class with him for another 2 years. So I was like, nah, I'm not even gonna go there with it. Just let it go. Well, anyway, in business school, a lot
Is he like a Steve Urkel type?
he was like a Jesse Smollett.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So after class we go out and we have drinks. Didn't realize this, and I should have known it. And the thing is, I don't know if I was wrong. I'm not gonna go that far and say I was wrong, but we were in Hell's Kitchen. So in Hell's Kitchen, there are a lot of
Outspoken people.
I wouldn't say outspoken. I would say more. I don't know if it's
Entitled.
No, it's correct to say gay people.
Okay. Yeah.
In Hell's Kitchen, there's a strong gay community,
Yep.
and I have gay friends.
Yeah.
Nothing.
We both
wrong
do.
with it. So I go to this bar. It's right down the street from Fordham at Lincoln Center, and I'm sitting at the bar with this hat on, and I'm actually with 3 girls from my class, and across the bar there's like 3 white guys, and one of the white guys just keeps staring at me, keeps shooting me, looks, and I had no.
Maybe he liked you.
I like forgot
I
about.
think he was hitting on you.
I forgot about the hat. Like I completely forgot that I had this hat on, and I'm just sitting there at the bar, just having a drink.
It's not like you had to like kill Whitey.
And the guy kept looking over at me, and finally he got the nerve to stand up, and he came over to me, and he said, in front of me and 3 other girls, and he said, "You're racist. You're homophobic. You're prejudiced." And you don't belong here. And I'm like, whoa, hold your horses. Like, dude, let's have a conversation. Like, why do you feel that way? One, I'm racist. I'm black. What do you mean I'm racist, dude? But for me, I'm like, I wanted to have a conversation. Like, this could have been a great opportunity for us.
Did you feel any?
To have a conversation, and it could have been a great opportunity for him to change my mind.
And vice versa, right? Now,
Right.
did you feel any instant like, yo, I want to knock this guy out, or no? Like, I'm gonna punch this kid in the face.
Because I felt like he was offended.
And ignorant.
It was ignorant for him to do that, but I felt like he was offended, and I respect. I felt bad. I felt bad, like maybe.
It's because you're secure with yourself, though.
Yeah, but I was like, maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should have been more sensitive to others' feelings. And this hat represents something to some people.
It means it's different for everybody.
Right. So, but I would have loved it if he would have, sat down and had a conversation.
Educational and professional.
That's where the disconnect is in this world today.
Completely.
People are not having the conversation. Like, that is how you build bridges, and that's how you
progress.
That's how you progress, by having the conversation.
But the media doesn't help that. The media purposely drives the wedge in between, and I'm sure at this point, does social media targeted ads to people based on what you search to drive more hate?
Yeah, and that's sad. That's why I do love social media. I'm not love it, but I do use social media, and I like where we're going from a technology standpoint. But I rather sit and have a conversation with someone. I think that's the most important thing, having that open dialogue and just talking about your experiences in your life, because you don't know what I've been through.
Everyone's different.
You don't know. Yeah, everyone's different, and you don't know what someone's going through on a daily basis. So I try to be respectful to all people, but I do love talking politics, and I like to debate, and I like to have deep, meaningful conversations. So.
What do you do with the person that is so closed-minded in any topic? Obviously someone who's closed-minded probably turned this episode off already. They're like, whatever. Like, all right, keep it moving, pal.
Yeah.
But how do you make somebody aware that they are closed-minded?
You can't.
Can you?
You can't.
Can't.
I think.
You keep trying or no?
Well, if they keep coming,
yeah.
You
come back for more. Come back for seconds.
Yeah. If they keep coming, then I think just sharing, peeling back layers is the thing, and just having an open dialogue. Like, there's a lot of things, like, I have friends that I disagree with 90%.
And it's okay to disagree.
Yeah, that's fine. That is completely fine. And I don't not want to be their friends because I disagree with them.
Right.
I think that actually makes me a stronger person.
Of course.
By
you're accepting differences.
Exactly.
You know what I feel like? I feel like now it comes down to, like, listen, morals, values, and ethics. I get that to a certain extent, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if you're being prejudiced towards someone's color, having a preconceived notion based on their color.
Yeah.
It's the same thing for political beliefs and religious beliefs.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, wait, hold on. Oh, you practice Buddhism? I don't like you. Yeah. Oh, wait, you're wearing a Make America Great hat? I don't like you. Oh, you don't like Obama? I don't like you. Yeah. At the end of the day, like, we're all here together. As long as I never did something personally to you, or like I'm not like child sex trafficking, which is a hot topic right now, or like no one had sex with your wife, right? Yeah. Like there are things that you can agree to disagree on.
Yeah, I agree.
But why do people make it so personal? It's like, oh, I can't associate with you. Oh, this is insulting. Oh, I'm offended by a choice or decision that you respectfully stand by.
I think it's a little bit about maturity and
entitlement.
I think maturity and I think insecurity. I think you have to be mature enough to understand both sides. Maturity, yeah. You have to be mature enough to say, I disagree with you, but I accept what you have to say. You know, I disagree with it, but I respect your opinion, you know. And I think immaturity. I think a lot of people adults are immature, you know, and ignorant. And ignorant, I don't think is a bad. I'm not using it in a bad way. Like
uneducated though.
But just not educated. Just don't know any better. My mother, you know, had a 401k, and she had, you know, all her money sitting in like some fixed income vehicle for, you know, 15, 20 years.
Yeah, she would have made a killing.
15, 20 years. She was ignorant, or she just was not educated on how to be invested to make money long term.
If you don't know what you don't know.
So I think it's I think one, you can't change someone else, but you know you can try, and you can just, you know, be a springboard to listen if they want to talk. And I'm an open book, and I like to share my experiences, and I like to help people get through theirs. You know, so I think just being open minded is key to helping people progress. People that are closed-minded, you know.
So every episode we close off with something for people to deposit that to their memory bank with. One thing that you want people to take away from your episode, from your advice, from your 33 years of life experience. What's one thing that you would like to see people implement into their daily life routine agenda?
Well, I would love to share. Okay.
You can share. Go ahead.
Well, I love to share what I do and how I can be helpful. And this will be quick. I'll give you my little 3-minute spiel.
Short version.
Yeah, of what I do. So I work at Goldman Sachs, and in the investment management division, I work on a team called the Partners Coverage Group. My team was actually, you know, created in 2000 when the firm went public, by 3 guys. 2 out of 3 are still there. Actually, yeah, 2 out of 3 are still on the team, and the team was created to manage money for the partners of the firm. So every time, you know, someone is made partner, we have a partner class every 2 years. One of the people on my team is tasked with managing assets for partners. So my team manages, I want to say, about $22 billion in supervision, and about, you know, I'd say $14 billion for the clients that we work with, you know, managing their assets and advising them on different investments to invest in. You know, my role and my job is to provide advice, you know, to provide a springboard for people to, you know, reach their goals financially, and to help them get there. The minimum investment account for the clients we work with is $10 million, but the average investment is about $60 million of investable assets. And the one thing that I can say we do well is listening. You know, a lot of the relationships that we have are not me dictating where someone invests. It's more so a partnership where we both come together and we find out what's the best investment vehicle, what's the best investment opportunity, and what's the best investment goals in order to achieve, you know, what you ultimately set out to achieve when working with my team or an advisor at my firm. So I'll stop there because I can ramble on about.
Do you think it's to listen?
I think listening. You know, don't be afraid to take chances. You know, be curious, and be open-minded and listen.
Awesome. Well, as you know, it's always a pleasure. I'm sure you'll be back on the show another 20 times over the next
Yeah,
20
we'll
years
see.
while we're running this
Let's
20-year
do it.
run.
Let's
But
do it.
I appreciate all the insight you gave. Obviously, you've
Awesome.
been an inspiration to me, everyone I know, and hopefully everyone that listens to the show. So we'll have
Awesome.
you back on here soon. Jason Caldwell, Goldman Sachs.